What is going on, guys? Baint from REX Digital, and in this video, I'm going to share with you guys how you can grow your landscaping business during a recession, during a downturn in the economy, during a time when the government isn't printing free money for everybody, and everyone's got thick pockets and they're looking to, get that bougie outdoor kitchen install that they were, 2 years ago when we were basically at the beginning of the everything bubble, right? Now, if you were lucky like me and you started a landscaping business around that time, you're probably you did pretty well. But now, based on how things are, there's a lot of uncertainty in the markets. There's a lot of debate about whether or not we are already in, have been, or are entering a recession with a hard landing and all this other stuff. Like, I'm not an economist. I'm not a financial expert. I'm not here to make advice or to predict what's going to happen with the US or global economy. But I can tell you that as a landscaping business owner, you've probably felt the effects of it, right? Like, regardless of what's going on, most people have recognized the fact that because of inflation and prices on basically freaking everything going up, landscaping, which depending on what services you offer, could be deemed as a luxury or a non-essential service or a commodity, whatever you want to call it. You might have struggled a little bit this year. There's less work. Like I said, there's less people lining up saying, yeah, give me that $100,000 outdoor kitchen or patio or whatever, right? Like, most people are down to the essentials. And, the first financial lesson that a lot of us probably learned was, well, when you think about what you want to do with your money, you can break it into wants or you can break it into needs. And we're at the point now where it's like some people that wanted landscaping before, maybe now they don't. And some people that need landscaping, well, that really depends on what services you offer. So I think it's generally pretty safe to say that across the board, across the trades, across the industries, people have maybe been making a little bit less money than they were this year. So I'm going to talk about not how to fix the economy, but how you can fix your business and still make a lot more money than you have been, and do some things within your business you can continue to grow and scale. But it's not necessarily going to cost you money. I think that's the biggest thing is, during periods where you're trying to grow your business, it's expensive, right? Growth is going to take money out of the business. It's going to take reinvestment of resources. If you want to get new trucks, new equipment, hire more employees, like the physical infrastructure that it takes to expand a local service business, it requires money to do all of those things. So during a period of recession or a downturn or times like now where, people are a little more hesitant to subscribe to services that they can maybe handle themselves, or just, the luxury of having a landscaper take care of all of your outdoor work is something that maybe some people are on the fence about. Here are some things that you can and should and ought to do during a period where maybe you say, hey, because the economy is looking questionable right now, instead of focusing on growth, why don't we focus on sustainability and profitability? And honestly, if we do that, we can still continue to grow the business financially without having to grow the business physically, right? Because if the growth of the business physically is what's sucking all the money out of it, and right now there's not as much money coming in, you're going to have issues, right? It goes without saying that trying to grow a business during a recession, during a tough time economically, is going to be difficult for you. So I'm going to tell you some things that you can do without having to spend a dime. It might take you some time to figure these things out, to start measuring these things. But here's what we can do, right? Now, this might seem crazy and it's probably not the best solution, but it's something that you could do, right? So let's just paint this picture so that hypothetically we can kind of operate within this scenario, right? Let's say that you're at $250,000 in revenue a year and you want to get to 300. What are the quickest ways that you could do that, right? Without spending a dollar, without changing a thing about your business, without hiring or firing anybody, without selling or buying a new truck or piece of equipment, right? Well, if you're at $250,000 a year, all you'd have to do to get to 300 is raise your prices by 20%. Now, that's a lot. 20% is not something that you would just do overnight. To give you some comparison, that's like, if you're mowing a lawn for $60, now you're charging the customer 72. That's a pretty big jump. So like, raising your prices by 20% might not be the easiest thing to pull off, but the principle of it is basically like, if you wanted to go from 250 to 300, all you had to do was raise your prices a little bit, right? So also, given the fact that we just talked about how the economy is looking a little shaky and people are less likely to spend their money, raising your prices right now is a hard thing to do. However, I still would do it, maybe just not by 20%, maybe something a little more realistic. But I think a lot of people have also realized at this point that if you don't continuously raise your prices, even when the economy is good, even when the getting is good, you now realize that you're in a position where you're at now, where you have to raise your prices in order to stay afloat, and your customers are already questioning whether or not they want to stay with you or need their services at all. So I think a lot of business owners have kind of realized that shit, I should have raised my prices a while ago, because while things were good, that would have been the time to do it. And something that I got from the first landscaping company that I ever worked for, actually, I was just listening to some of the owners talk about contracts and how they were managing things with some of their commercial accounts. And they said that they raised their prices by 3% to 6% every single year to account for inflation. Whether it's a good year, a bad year, regardless of what's happening, they raise their prices every single year. And that is basically, in my opinion, an extremely smart way to go about doing things, because if you raise your prices by 3 to 6% every year, I'm not saying that it's unnoticeable, but for the client, think about this from the person you're selling this to. A 3% increase from one year to the next is almost unnoticeable on small ticket services. If it goes from $100 to $103, that doesn't make a huge impact to them, right? Like that's not enough for them to consider not using your service anymore, right? Or from $103 to $106, like they're not gonna have to rethink their purchasing decision at that point in time. Now, obviously, as we start to get into thousands and tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollar services, that 3 to 6% makes a difference, right? It makes a huge difference. But the real kicker is doing this 3 to 6% over the course of multiple years, so that, if you started this 3 or 4 years ago and you've done it every year since you started your business, your prices right now at the beginning of this year accurately represent and accurately account for the economy. It's priced in, right? I don't want to go into the stock market tangent, but the priced in thing. I guess now I have to explain myself anyways. But if you look at the prices of the stock market today, the news, the stories, the headlines, everything that's going on within the economy as well, and within the economy of that individual business is priced into the stock market price. I don't want to go too crazy into it, but basically, if you've done this and you've accounted for the change and inflation and the changing of prices of things doesn't go away ever, right? There are years like this year where it goes crazy and we feel it and it's noticeable, and it's like, holy shit, the price of eggs went from this to this in the matter of a couple months. And that's an extreme case of it, right? But it does happen. Like generally speaking, across year to year, things have gone up in price, right? And similarly, where if you raise it by 3 to 6%, like the price of everything has been over the course of the past couple of years, you don't notice, but you notice this year when it went up by like 16 or 30%, right? So that's why I'm saying changing your prices now and raising your prices slowly over time is definitely a move, because it's easier to manage and it's easier to understand from the customer's perspective, but it also saves you from having to explain yourself when all of a sudden you're like, hey, our business is going to go under this year, so we're raising our prices right now in the middle of the season while we're under contract by 20%. You can't just do stuff like that, right? Or you can, but some people aren't going to like you. And that's just kind of how it goes. So to make a long story short, right? 250 to 300K, you want to make more profit without making more work for yourself or without changing anything within your business, just raise your prices. Now let's talk about something else, right? So solution one, raise your prices and charge more, which you should have been doing already. But now that the recession hit, or not the recession, but now that inflation is at an all-time high, you can't just be like, oh shit, we're unprofitable, we need to raise our prices. You have to now. But the smart move would have been to have been doing that over the course of time to account for that, knowing that it's a part of the economy and that it happens. It's an ongoing thing, right? So let's move on and talk about something else. Another quick and easy way to go from 200K or 250K to 300K, right, would be to increase your closing percentage. This is something that's super simple, right? This is probably the easiest thing that you could do to grow your business without having to spend a dime without having to, hire someone, or without having to buy or sell equipment, do anything that is outside of just looking at some data and statistics, right? Now, I'm a big fan of numbers. I think most small businesses are absolutely abysmal when it comes to tracking important KPIs. If you don't know what a KPI is, it's a key performance indicator. Just basically, it's a number, it's a statistic, some measurement that is important to the performance of your business, right? And in this case, our close percentage is something that's very important, right? Especially for guys that are doing more landscaping projects where there's less recurring revenue, and it's more like you gotta hunt and kill if you want to eat, right? So every project matters. And let's say that you increase your closing percentage, basically the amount of clients or leads or estimates that you submit to the amount of people that actually become paying customers. If you increase that percentage, well, you just increase your profits and you increase your revenue as well without having to do anything. This might take crunching some numbers. This might take running through your books and getting all of this information in the first place. And it might take you as the business owner, or it might take you as the salesperson within your landscaping business, whichever role you fit into, right? If you're the one that's closing these customers, or if you're dealing with the estimates or the follow-up, or whoever's contacting the leads, all of that stuff is important. If you're administrative, or if you're facing the client in any way, shape, or form, probably you have some responsibility in this statistic, right? So it's important to think about. Basically, we have this, right? You get a phone call, or someone fills out the form on your website, and this qualifies them to you as a lead, right? Someone that has gone ahead, raised their hand and said, hey, I need landscaping work. All right. From there, maybe you answer their call. Let's say you get 100 leads, right? You answered the phone 50% of the time. So you got 50 phone calls where you answered and talked to the person directly. 25 of them, you missed the call, you had to call them back. And then 25 of them, you missed the call, you call them back, but you never hear from them again, right? They're weird. They ghost you, they disappear. Sometimes this happens. So let's say out of 100, you're already down to 75% of people that are legitimate prospects that actually need some sort of landscaping that you were able to get in touch with. And let's say out of that 75%, some of them, just based on the conversation on the phone, weren't qualified, we're looking for a service you don't offer, whatever. So out of that 75%, 50% of them, so minus 25, 50 of these people you actually schedule an estimate with. You go to their property, you walk around, you talk to them, you get an idea, you get a feel, you have them show you what you want or what they want done, and you're able to give them a price, right? So out of the 100 people that initially came in the door, 50 of them you actually get to meet in person and fill out an estimate. And from there, let's say, 20% you actually close, which means basically you won the job and they gave you money. Woohoo, right? Profit for the business, revenue for the business. Great. Now, there's dollar bills, there's revenue, there's profit, there is money for the business slipping through the cracks at every single one of these stages, right? Now, I know for a fact, if you're watching this video and you're the owner of a landscaping business, somewhere in this process, you could do better. I promise you could do better. I know what it's like. I've run a landscaping business myself. This part of the process is so fucking unorganized. Rarely ever, unless you're doing millions of dollars and you've got people in place handling all of this stuff. If you're still at the, 250K to, 500, 600, you probably don't have an administrative team. You probably don't have, or maybe you do, but the person that's handling your phone calls, doing your estimates, all of this stuff, you're still building out systems. You're still building out processes. You still have maybe a little bit of structure, but there's, like I said, there's just definitely places in this process where there's things slipping through the cracks, right? Either your time to lead is really low, meaning from the second that someone hits you up to the time that you're able to call them back or get in touch with them is high, meaning it's minutes, days, hours, whatever. If you're not contacting people back within 5 minutes, I think it's between 5 and 15 minutes, your chances of getting that job drops by 60 to 80%. Those are loose numbers, but that's a solid statistic. I'm pretty sure if you look that up, I saw it on I think Angie's actually was the one that published the information. I know that controversial name to be dropping in a video, but I know they're relatively hated amongst the service-based industries. But they do have a lot of data on this stuff, and so I feel like they're not wrong in saying that, right? Your time to lead is pretty important. That from the second that someone contacts you to the second that you get back to them, every time, all the time that elapses in between those two things happening, your chances of getting that job goes down, right? So I made sure when I was running my business that the number one thing was, if we're in the field, if we're in the truck, whatever, have the phone, have the ringer on. As soon as you get the message, as soon as you get the notification, call the person back. Even if it's like, I don't have time to talk right now, I just wanted to let you know that we got your inquiry. Super important. Get them on the phone, talk to them, let them know that you are a real person, that you exist, and that you can take care of their service, or you're going to get an estimate to them at some point, right? So time to lead is really important in this first stage. And the follow-up as well, right? So these 25 people that you left a voicemail and they never got back to you, call them again, text them again. If you have a form on your website, you're collecting these people's email addresses as well. Most likely you should be. So send them an email, send them a text message, call them again, call them every day until they get back to you. Like, there's only two things that they could answer, right? Yes or no. And if they haven't said no yet, then it's a possible yes. And you should continue to inquire until you get one answer or the other. So there's also a lot of follow-up that you're probably not doing that's happening at this stage. And that's more money, again, slipping through the cracks. Now, when it comes to closing, there's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different variables that could happen here, right? Your pricing could be too high. You could be in a lower income area. You could have people that are just maybe thinking, but they're not super serious about it yet. But ultimately, all of this stuff is just objections. And your salesmanship and your sales skills are really what's going to improve this last bit here. Now, again, with the follow-up piece, if you submit an estimate to a client or a potential client and they don't get back to you, that is the warmest, that is the hottest, that is the closest money to entering your bank account that there is. And you should be following up with those people consistently, again, until you receive the "no, I'm not interested, stop calling me," or you get the "hey, sorry, I've been busy for the past 2 weeks, whatever, and I'm ready to go now," but like finally getting back in touch with them, right? So just if you showed up at their house and you walked around, you spent some time with them, you gave them an estimate, you took the time to, make a list, an itemized list, to fill out the form, to send it to them, all that stuff. You took the time, you invested that time into that person, that client. You should be following up with them to the ends of the earth until they either tell you yes or no, right? You really want to double down on this area. Now, also, there's a lot of things when it comes to sales that you definitely could improve on as well. Sales, being a salesman is like, it's its own skill set. It's like you could start a whole other business just being a salesman, right? Like it's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different mind frame to be in. And the people skills, the conversational skills, I don't want to say the psychology of it, but yeah, like not that there are some tactics, there's some things you can do that just like make your life easier as a salesman. And yeah, it's really, really important that you learn the basics of those things, right? Now could make a whole separate video just talking about sales. In fact, I think I might actually have one on my YouTube. If I do, I'll put it in the top corner right now. I'm pretty sure I made a sales video before, just some basic things that you can try, some basic lines, some things you can say to help you increase your close percentage. But yeah, really there's just some basic salesmanship things. Presentation is everything. Persuasion is everything. And just making sure that you're making your best effort in this department is really what's going to help you kind of push more people over the line, which is ultimately more money for your business, right? More jobs on the schedule, more money in the bank. That's what we want. So again, both of these things, the follow-up process of your leads and increasing your close percentage, and then also just raising your prices in general. These are two ways that are, this one's a little more complex here, but oh shit. Actually, you know what? There we go. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to take a screenshot, save this thumbnail for the video. Anyways, these are two things you can do to increase the profitability of your business without having to spend a dime or a dollar. It's just going through your systems and checking in with certain measurements, certain KPIs within your business, and improving those things, right? It's the easiest thing you can do. You don't have to hire a new employee, buy a new truck, whatever. So take this video, implement some of these things, and go make some more money with your landscaping business. All right. Thank you guys. If you need help with any of this stuff, or when it comes to marketing, digital marketing services, check the link in the bio or in the description. Excuse me. You can book a free call with me there. I'd love to talk one-on-one with you and just go over anything, any issues you're having, and maybe any solutions we could offer that you're looking for to help grow and scale your landscaping business here in 2024 and beyond. So hope you guys found some value in this video. Hope you're having a great day. I'll catch you guys in the next one. All right.